Hello, this is Skylit Lake reading Super Science by That Chicken Dude. Chapter 25, When Villains Attack, Part 3. Just before Izuku, Egon, Nezu, and Bakugo could leave, a black portal opened in front of their door, and several villains came out all at once. As they all backed away, one of them strutted up to them with an evil smile while looking dead at Nezu. Well, the principal of UA. Ready to die like what you did to my whole life? He yelled while turning his hands into metal spiked maces. The others looked at Nezu, wondering what he was talking about, but Egon took this a different way and stated, "Hey, we're here too." Oh yes, how could I forget about the two brats and the nerd? The villain vexed with a smile. Egon and Izuku scowled at this, and they both shouted, "I'll show you who's the nerd." Egon then shot lasers from his eyes and blasted the one in front. Izuku then ripped Egon's desk off the floor and threw it at the rest, pinning them under the large metal object. They, alongside the gobstruck heroes, ran out of the door with ease. Once they were out, Izuku broke the mechanics on the other end, and Egon welded it shut with his laser vision. The two of them wiped their brow and sighed in relief once their job was done. This left the two heroes in shock and confusion about what they saw. They stared for so long that the two scientists noticed and asked why they were staring. "I thought you had a crystal quirk," Nezu stated. "I thought you were quirkless," Bakugo exclaimed. "You're right on both accounts," Izuku confirmed. "Then how did you do that?" Nezu asked, baffled. Izuku looked at Egon, who nodded and then told them, "Well, since you signed the waiver, we can tell you they're called splinters, and they hold an energy source that can mimic and replicate anything they come in contact with, including quirks." Curious and struck by an overwhelming sense of intrigue, Nezu inquired, "How do you figure that out?" Izuku put a finger on his lips and answered, "Trade secret. Less talk and more running. That door won't hold them forever," Egon told them as he waved down a hallway. As the four of them ran down the hallway, hoping no more villains were out patrolling, Nezu asked, "So, what's the plan here? Get to the security office, try to force the doors open, or call for help?" Egon told him. "And if that doesn't work," Nezu answered back, "we pull out all the stops, including the dragon." Egon explains as Izuku nods. The two heroes stop in their track, causing the two scientists to come skidding to a halt as they look back and see the two surprised heroes, saying in unison, "You have a dragon?" It took them several seconds of running before they could get to the corner where the security office was, and, unfortunately, it was guarded by two villains. Luckily, this wasn't a problem, especially as Bakugo, who wanted to go out and attack them, though didn't get the chance, as the two scientists casually walked out in front of them with zero hesitation. When the villains saw this, they tried to attack the seemingly harmless scientists. They were met with the biggest shock of their lives. Egon breathed out a torrent of cold air that froze the villains solid, while the second one was caught up in some sort of space-time pocket and turned into some abstract artwork, unable to move and freaking out. The two scientists patted themselves off as they gave the thumbs up to the two heroes, who just looked on in a mixture of impressed, shocked, and furious on Bakugo's end. Once inside, Egon went to the nearest keyboard and started typing faster than the human eye could keep up. It only took a minute before results started to show as the scientist slammed on the keyboard wall, cursing. Shit, 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 he hissed. I assume those are good curses? Nezu asked hopefully. Egon graphed and told him, you and I wish. The security system may still be in our control, but they have us trapped in with communications down. So what now? Izuku asked. We fight, stupid nerds, Bakugo countered while punching his fists. Egon raised an eyebrow and shot back with sass. Oh really? Two scientists with no fighting experience, a smart mouse, and an uncontrollable hero in training up against I don't know how many villains, their two mysterious leaders, and that giant monster. Yeah, we'll win, Bakugo growled, then looked at Izuku's neck, reaching out for one of the splinters and demanding, then give me one of those splinter things. No, Izuku rejected and pulled away, much to Bakugo's surprise. First off, they're called splinters. Second, they're our property. Third, they're hard to make. And finally, I don't trust you, Izuku firmly told him. Bakugo was hit into another stunned silence for the second time by Izuku, and just like the last one, he had no idea how to react. So, he just stood there, with his mouth agape. Whilst this went down, Nezu turned his eyes to the security monitor and stated, I see, they even took out the cameras. I hope your staff is doing okay. This statement sent a shiver up the professor's spine as he realized he hadn't checked in on them and whipped out his phone to do a group call. Once on the speakers, he announced, Attention, attention, is everyone okay? Not really. Otto is on his last arm, Gina's told him with a nervous tone. I'm losing my voice, Hankoyu squeaked out. I'm out of robots and my mech suit has shut down, Hatsume stated with a displeased tone. I'm all out of juice, Honey Lemon screamed. I'm out of ammo, but I won't stop fighting, Cho exclaimed before she started to shout a war cry and run. Our force field is almost done for, the triplets told him with feverish fear. As Egon and Izuku heard this all hope seemed to vanish. The sound of fighting and the workers struggling to hold on sent chills down their backs. They couldn't do anything at this point. It was hopeless. They were trapped in their facility with no contact, and overrun by criminals with a monster that could do who knows what. On top of that, they had a bunch of kids to try and protect. What could they do? In the moment of conflict, emotions, and thoughts, all Izuku could do was fall to his knees and cry. Egon wasn't much better as his knees locked together and he covered his mouth in shock. Tears flowed like two rivers down his face. Was this the end? Chapter 26 When Villains Attack Part 4 Nezu took action right away as he punched into the PA system and announced, Attention, all students of UA, this is your principal speaking. I am officially giving all of you the freedom to use your quirks. Use them to protect yourself and the brave men and women trying their best to protect you. Show them what real heroes are made out of. Egon and Izuku looked up at the small creature on top of the stool and held the mic like he was their savior. He smiled down at the two of them and Egon said to him, Nezu, thank you. It's what a hero would do. As Egon helped Izuku to his feet, he apologetically told the little creature, And I'm sorry for being so angry with you. Nezu looked off to the side at first, as he confirmed for him, You did have the right. in several situations. But please, dry your eyes. Your people need you, he exclaimed. Egon wipes his face and says, "You're right. Now we need a plan of action." "I've got one," Izuku tells them after drying off his face. Bakugo snickered at this and said, "What? Are you gonna cry at the villains so hard that they drown in your tears?" This earned him a smack on the back of the head by Egon, who immediately apologized to Nezu. "Sorry, Nezu. I should have asked you first." No. If you didn't, then I would have," Nezu assured him with a wave of his paw. "Is the peanut gallery done talking?" Izuku asked with his hands on his hip. When everyone went silent to stare at this statement, he said, "Yes, as I was saying, Principal Nezu, how good are you with hacking machines?" "Better than you'd expect," he answered with a chuckle. "Then you stay here try to hack the communications. We have to get in contact with the outside world," he told them while taking out a splinter off his collar and handing it over to him. "Take this splinter. It holds a force field quirk. Keep a hand or paw on it at all times. It has a mental activation. Once it's up, it won't go down unless you say so," he exclaimed as Nezu nodded. "Bakugo," Izuku turned to the blonde teen who stood there in shock at being called by his name. "You're our avenger. Anyone who gets in our way, you do what you do best," Izuku told him as he grunted and looked away. "Egon, we need to get to the creature division and then the chemical division. Once we have Gammoth and Honeylemon, we can bust out of here," he told the man who nodded back with his fists clenched and expression ready to go. Izuku then looked to the exit door, struck a pose while pointing, and exclaimed, "Let's go stop some villains." Creature Division. After getting past the initial shock of seeing a real-life Kraken, it was much easier to take him down than expected. Having many arms didn't mean he was tougher, just that he could grab more, and they were very soft and squishy. In addition, being bigger just made him a bigger target, and soon he was out of limbs, leaving him a stump and black and blue. With no more fight left in him, Otto shrunk back down and backed off with what was left of his limbs. "Looks like the octopus ran out of his limbs," one of the villains croaked as they pushed away a giant tentacle. Otto, who only had one limb left, tried to shake his splinter, but nothing happened. In his head, he commented, "Crap, the hyper-regeneration quirk isn't working. I knew it was unfinished." "Now, all that's left is... Ah!" one of the villains yelled as he was blasted in the face by blood. All eyes turned to Anima, who turned his head into a thorny dragon. He sighed and stated, "Well, that's all I've got." When the villains got back, he was nailed in the face, this time by ink. All eyes turned to Otto as he added, "Same here." As the first villains, who got money shot twice, wiped their face with a furious glare, the other remaining villains followed behind as they surrounded the octopus and the scientists. The two of them backed away until they were cornered and held one another in their arms. "Goodbye, Otto. It was an honor working with you," Genus told his partner. "My only regret is not dying after having sex once," proclaimed Cephalopod. "What?" Genus said, forgetting the situation for a moment. As the villains closed in on them, the one who got splashed twice was hit in the face yet again, but this time by a laser beam, and knocked them out. When the other villains looked over, they saw Aoyama standing with his naval laser glittering. "You keep away from those kind scientists," he demanded flamboyantly. One of the other villains lost in his surprise, proclaimed, "What, do you kids think you have a chance against us? Don't make me laugh." Then it was Awais who told them, "We may be kids, but we're also heroes, and heroes always stand up against those who try to harm the peace and innocence." Plant vision. Once all the plants had something to grab, munch on, or ran out of ammo, it was all a matter of pushing past or cutting them down. Hollyhock had done her best with what she had, and mentally drained herself to exhaustion as she sat on her knees, sweating buckets. The villains closed in, and one of them said, while ripping a plant out by the roots, "Once we get through with you, lady, we'll burn and weed-whack all your stupid plants." But before they could try anything on the woman, a bramble of vines shot out from the ground, snagging several of the villains and wrapped them up, or trapping them against the roof, where Ibarra came out and proclaimed, "But you'll have to whack all of us first. That's to say, you have the roots to do it." Hollyhock smiled up at the holy girl and said, "I like you already, honey." Hunkayo fell to his hands and knees as he coughed violently and spat blood. He had used his underused quirk with the help of a splinter to the point he ruptured his vocal cords, and now he was helpless to the remaining villains that cornered him. "Lost your voice already, Five-Hot Gus?" the villains asked as Hunkayo glared at his old name while his head tubes hissed and snapped at him. The villains shrugged and stated, "Too bad, I almost wanted encore." Before anything could happen, the villains was struck in the head by a punch from Kirishima, who exclaimed, "No encore, but how about a new song?" "One we like to call," his clone Tetsu added in with a punch, before the two of them got the villains at the same time and yelled, "Beat it!" Robotics Division. I wish I had longer to live. I have so many mental notes on how to improve my machines. Hatsume sulked as he was wrapped and slowly being crushed by the female villain and her hair. The female laughed as she boasted, "Oh, too bad for you. Looks like your only ride now is the one to hell." Then Kaminari came in from the side and flicked through her hair and freed the doctor. He quickly pulled back by Sero and was safely deposited. Uraka came up and began to untie him. "Don't worry, Dr. H. Metal is weak, but the flesh is stronger. And today we'll show you just that," she told him as she and the other students stood in her defense. Chemical Division. Come on, come on, come on, come on! There's still more of them!" Honeylemon yelled at her giant squirt gun, and she slammed her fists on it while rapidly moving her sights from it and the villains closing in. "All out of juice there, sweetie?" One of the villains vexed as the others laughed, only to be hit in the body and feet by acid and some kind of glue. "But I'm not," Mina proclaimed. "And neither am I," Bondo added as the two of them stood back to back in a superhero pose. Weapons Division. During her all-out shootout with the villains, Cho quickly ran out of ammo but didn't stop the fight. She used the shotgun as a bat and began to club every villain in sight before that broke over someone with a stone body quirk. She then took out two katanas and began to be seen like a trained samurai, slicing and dicing everyone who tried to go after her. Cho was a force of nature in every aspect. Her body was a weapon. from her hands to her feet. She finally met her match in an electric quirk user that managed to damage her significantly and knock her sword from her grasp. But even as she was bear-hugged and electrocuted, she took the hairpin out from her hair and stabbed him multiple times. Once he let go, she stabbed him in the eye before hitting his jugular. Unfortunately, this left her in a critical state, as she fell to her face, and was only able to shift her head enough to see up. There she saw one of the remaining villains looking down at her with an angry expression. Dr. Orpington was only slightly better, since she became vulnerable once her egg cannon ran out and her self-controlled armchair was destroyed before she hid for cover behind the teens. "Damn it, you're one tough bitch, huh?" he commented while cracking his neck as she just stayed on the ground and breathed heavily. The villains, having a snide smile, said, "But not tough enough." She growled, and with what breath she had left, cursed, "Screw your head and the neck it rode in on." The villains kicked Cho in her head and grunted, "Guess we'll have to teach her some manners." "Yeah, lesson 1, if you want to fight, make it fair," shouted Kendo as she hit the villain away. "Lesson 2, seriously rethink your life choices," Juzo exclaimed as he came from the ground and hooked his legs onto the floor. "Lesson 3, don't fuck with heroes, no matter who they are." Sato glared at the villains while punching his fists. Storehouse. "The barrier's almost down, keep pushing," a villain yelled as they and several other heroes attacked the breaking barrier with different speeds. The Morgana triplets were sweating bullets at this point, as they could barely hold it together when finally they spoke to the teens. "Hey kids, listen closely," Megan spoke. "We're about to break, so we need you to do something for us," Millicent told them. "We only got one trick left, to protect us and yourself as best as you can," Morgan asked them with a single tear running down her face. The teens then watched in awe as the three women merged into one long-haired woman with unnatural beauty, and she told them, "I'm counting on you." She then breathed as her eyes turned back and spoke, "Power word, kill." With that word spoken, the barrier was reabsorbed into her hands, where she pushed it out into a beam of darkness that took the form of a grim reaper, which ran towards the villains, and any that was hit by it fell to the floor dead. When the reapers dissipated, Morgana fell to the floor unconscious. The remaining villains came out of their hiding spots, and one of them commented, "What a witch." "Yes, but the only ones getting burned at the stake is you," Mortimer told them as he stood before them with half his body on fire and the other half covered in ice. The battle rages on. Hey guys, how are you? Hope you enjoyed this new video. For some reason, my channel just spiked in views, especially the previous one shot. Not the previous, the first one shot. That shot up to like 700. I think it's like close to 800 now, which is crazy. So thank you guys for watching, and for all of you who, came back for more. It's so fun, and it makes me really happy seeing that you guys are watching, you guys are interested, and you guys like my content, even if I stutter half the time and I have to do a lot of editing after I record. Though I have gotten better. I remember for the chapter 25 recording, I'm pretty sure I only had to redo it like once or twice, like small parts, and I got most of it in one smooth shot, which is like new record for me. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. Bye.